And I'm back, baby. It's June 29th, 2025. Can y'all believe June will be over in 2 days? Tomorrow's the 30th, and I believe we also have another day, the 31st, and then June is over. I believe that's the case. Actually, no, we only get one more day of June left. We only have one more day of June left. But, anyways, what's up, everyone? I'm Reviews for Success, aka JP, and today we're gonna look at the stock market. I have the S&P 500 pulled up for y'all. Man, last week was one historic week. One, we had a war going on, a 12-day war that ended, and the market started shooting up. Guys, look at what happened. On Monday, the stock market was falling like somebody threw a tank at it. Look at this. Had a massive drop on Monday. I believe it was Monday when all that commotion was going on. And it had a crazy recovery. Look at this. Yep, Monday from 10 a.m. up until 12:30. Oh, man, that's a 2 hour fall, a 2 hour fall. And then look at this 30-minute rise, guys, from 592 up to 597. Crazy big move. And then ever since Monday, the market just rose. Like, look at that. And on Friday, we had a peak of 616. That is crazy, guys. That is crazy. 616, that's all-time high right there. All-time high, 616. Actually, the previous all-time high was like 613. But we went up to 616 and then we fell. But I think this will be a historic week. And also be aware we have 4 days of the market being open because Friday will be a holiday. It will be July the 4th. So be aware of that. But what are my predictions for this week? So we're at all time highs. So be aware, once we're at all time highs, things really pick up momentum. We're going to continue this momentum, although we did have a crazy fall midway through the day on Friday. I believe this momentum is going to continue. So we fell from 616 to 610, which is a big fall, but compared to where we rose from, we're still up high. I believe we're gonna probably try to reach the 620 level. That's the next big number because we're at 616 right now. We passed 615. So I believe if we go up, well, I'm gonna assume we're gonna go up and we're gonna hit 620. I'm gonna put my prediction right there, 620. Let me straighten that out. So that's my prediction for this week. Also, be aware of the news that's going on. So there's so much going on, so much uncertainty with the war, tariffs. Things are just going up and down. And because of this, we don't know what the future truly holds. Normally, the feds are certain about rate cuts. Some are saying we have like potential 3 rate cuts ahead of us this year. Some are saying one, some are saying two. And it seems like the feds are also trying to really get a good understanding of what's going on. And we all know Jerome Powell and Donald Trump are not coming to a consensus. Hopefully, I said that correct, but they're not aligned. They don't like each other. And that's another issue about this year. You know, Jerome Powell and Donald Trump, they have beef with each other. But, anyways, let's move on to another company. I have a watch list. I have like 13 companies available. All right, let's look at Tesla. Tesla right here, man. Tesla had a crazy week. They had a crazy fall like 2, 3 weeks ago when when Elon Musk and Donald Trump fell off. Tesla fell by a crazy amount. I believe it was on Thursday right here. Look at that crazy fall, man. I remember that day like it was yesterday. It, look at that from 348 to 275. I marked it down, and ever since then, they rose up. They fell again, but they've been rising. They've been rising, and they fell. Now, I actually predicted that they would have some sort of bear flag throughout the week, and I believe they only had it on Tuesday. Yeah, on Tuesday, they had a bear flag form right here from Monday up until Wednesday. So it started forming on Tuesday and it ended on Wednesday. And I also predicted that they would have another fall again Thursday, but they did not. Friday, they sort of had a fall. But if Tesla falls, I can see them falling all the way down to 305. Now, what do I think Tesla's going to do? Now, based off what I can see, what pattern do I see? I see a potential bull flag for Tesla. I see a potential bull flag for Tesla forming for the day tomorrow Monday. If they rise up, I see them rising up, touching this EMA. That's what I'm going to predict for Tesla. And also look out for the news because Tesla is also, I mean, every company is news driven, but Tesla is one of those big companies that is always in the headlines. And any small thing can really affect the price action of Tesla. SoFi, on the other hand, man, we got to clap. I'm going to clap. SoFi had a crazy week. Guys, I've never seen SoFi move like this. Look at this. I started this trend line, I think 3 weeks out. I think I started this trend line 3 weeks out. Look at this. This parallel trend line. It broke it a little bit, but it's still on the same trajectory as the trend line. I started it on May. Guys, look at this. Thursday, May 29th. Look at that. And they're still on that upward trajectory. One more standing ovation for SoFi because SoFi is one of those small companies that I truly believe will do great, but move slow. But all week, look at this, all week since Monday. Look at this, since Monday, they haven't had a major fall. Look at that, from Monday till Friday. Monday they were at 14, now they're at 17. That is crazy for SoFi. I said Tesla, but SoFi. That is crazy price action for SoFi. I really never see SoFi move like that. Now, what do I see SoFi doing? Because of this whole positive momentum going on, it looks like they're kind of forming some sort of bear flag. But honestly, I can see SoFi going back up, maybe reaching all time highs, touching 18 again. I think 18 is their all time high. Let me look at it. Let me look at it. Their all time high. Oh man, I was wrong. So I was thinking about 1852 from when they reached 1852 back in February. Yeah, February, right after Donald Trump won. Well, right after the inauguration, things shot up, but that's where they were at last. So I can see them going back up to 18, and that's a very realistic level. Like look at where they're at. 1852 does not seem too far away and doesn't seem unrealistic compared to, especially with the way they've been moving, and their all-time high isn't even close to 18. It's actually way above 18. I'm gonna look at it one more time. Their all-time high is actually, man, whew, that is crazy. 28.37. So they're like $11 away from all-time high. So it's definitely possible for them to go back up to 18. I can see them doing that, but it looks like they're trying to form some sort of bear flag. They might potentially form a bear flag for one of these days, maybe drop all the way down to 16, maybe 16.7, 16.5. No, not 16.5. I say 16.7. That's if this bear flag forms. If not, they can potentially rise back up, maybe touch 18 on the day for Monday or by the end of the week. We'll see. All right, next we have Celsius. Celsius also had a crazy week, man. Look at that double top right here. Look at this double top. Look at this double top, guys. Is that a Head and Shoulders? No, but that's a double top right there. Look at that. They were up at 45, dropped back down to 44, went back up to 47. Man, crazy day. But look, they seem to be forming. Man, look, I have trend lines set up for Celsius that started back in June 13th. So they've been following this upward trajectory for some time now. And they're kind of slipping off a little bit from based off how the trend lines look. They could potentially go back up, touch 47 again. They're at 45. And this doesn't look too much like a bear flag, but if it is a bear flag, I can see them touching this line again, maybe going past that line. But honestly, I'm gonna say they're gonna go back up to 47, 45, and that's if the market is going up and if their sector of the market goes up. All right, next, Hims and Hers. Man, they had a crazy week. They fell. They fell by like 10% or 20, something like that on Monday. Look at that crazy fall, but they're recovering up. And look at the pattern that they're forming. I can't really predict this pattern. If they fell past this level, let's say they fell past 40, they would have formed another crazy bear flag. But the reason why they fell is because they lost one of their major contracts. That's what I heard. That's what the news said. And that I believe that's the reason why they fell. But for the most part, I can see Hims and Hers going back up, touching 50 again this week. Honestly, I can definitely see that. I can see them touching 50 again. So I'm going to predict them touching 50. They're on the bull side for me, honestly, because the way they fell off, the man, I see a lot of companies fall off by a lot, and then the next morning they shoot back up. If it's not halfway, full recovery. Sometimes they continue to fall, but for a company like Hims, I feel like they're pretty strong. Our next, QUBT. I didn't pay attention to QUBT too much, but from what I see right here, QUBT is having a negative trajectory. So they're falling. They've been falling, and they're kind of forming a slope. I'm gonna try to draw some sort of trend line. Man, I don't know what kind of pattern this could be. Look at this top wick over here, man. That's crazy. It's like they're forming a negative slope. Like they form a double top right here. This is the first one, second, and then they just started falling. For QUBT, they had a positive week the week before last week. Man, honestly, if that move that they had 2 weeks ago was real, they can continue going up. I can see them passing this EMA, passing 17.5. Actually, yeah, I can see them passing this and even going back up to 18, honestly. And that's if their sector, if the quantum stocks favors them this week. Nvidia, woo! They're back as the largest company in the world, guys. Look at this. From Monday, they started at 142. Now look at where they're at, 157. Crazy, crazy. They broke all-time highs again. Look at that. And honestly, they can continue this wave. I can see them going to 159 potentially by the end of the week. By the end of the week, I can see that happening because they're a large company, and it's hard for large companies to move really fast like they used to because of how much money it requires to move them like that. And just the fact that they're large, it's not very common to see them move like that. All right, I'm gonna pick that up. All right, APLD. This is a company right here that has potential. Now they had a crazy week. They had a negative slope. Looks like they had a descending wedge forming, and then they broke out, but they started falling again on Friday. And honestly, it looks like they're trying to form some sort of bear flag. Like, if you look at this, it looks like a bear flag. If they continue to fall Monday or this week, they're definitely gonna break through this line right here. I can see them falling to as low as 9.5. I'm gonna say 9.5. Yeah, if they especially if they break through this line, they could potentially fall back to 9.5 if this bear flag forms. All right, next, Google. Google had a crazy week, man. Almost every company had a crazy week. Look at it was a positive week overall in general. Look at this. On Wednesday, they shot up by like 5%. Friday, they shot up maybe like 10% this time from 172 to 178. Crazy. I don't know if that's 10%, but that was a crazy week. And look, it looks like they're forming some sort of bull flag. Man, honestly, I can't even excuse me guys, it is nighttime. I don't even know if I could truly chart this right here, but if they do form this bull flag, they can potentially go up and reach 181 again. That's very positive. I mean possible. They were recently at 181 in June too. So that's quite realistic. That doesn't seem unrealistic actually. So look out for Google potentially continuing to go up. And I'm just curious to know why Google went up like this. I might do a little bit more research and figure out why Friday they had such a positive day. Apple on the other hand, they were pretty stagnant all week. They're forming like it looks like it looked like a wedge, but they're in a trend. They've been in this area for quite some time, like trailing up and down, and they're not forming a pattern. They recently had their events, but from what I see, this looks like a bear flag. I really love spotting out bull and bear flags. That's why you guys are hearing me saying bull, bear. If they fall Monday or this week, they could potentially fall to 199, and I can see them falling again based off this pattern right here. Spy on the other hand, Spy, we already saw Spy. Hood on the other hand, Hood looks like they could form a bear flag. Man, Hood pissed me off this week. I'm gonna be honest, guys. Hood pissed me off this week. But yeah, they could potentially fall down to 2310. Who knows? Like we're gonna see, but they look like they're forming some sort of bear flag. The bear flag starts down up there. This is what? Hold on. That's 24, 25. This is 23. That's 2309. They could potentially fall to 22.8. Guys, that is very possible. 22.8. Oh gosh. Yeah, so GME could potentially fall to 22.8. And then we got Hood on the other hand. Hood Hood had a crazy week also. Look at this. They rose up on Tuesday from 77, and on Wednesday they finished off at 82. That is crazy. I can see them being 100, definitely 100 by the end of the year for sure. With this momentum, and I also have a trend line that they broke past. Look at this trend line that I drew for Hood that started back on Monday, June 9th, and they broke above that trend line. They fell back Friday, but look, they broke above Tuesday when they had that crazy week. I mean that crazy day. And honestly, they could potentially cool off. It looked like they're trying to form a bear flag. If they cool off, they'll probably fall around that EMA 81, maybe 80. Who knows? If not, they could potentially touch this trend line again. I'm gonna draw a mark to show that I am confident that they'll fall below that EMA. Okay, now Palantir. Palantir, man. Oh my gosh. I think this is the most resilient company, actually one of the most resilient companies in the market. They had a crazy week, positive trajectory all summer long, but they've been falling. They've been falling really fast. They've been forming some crazy bear flags. Friday, look at this. Boom, boom. And then they did it again. Look at that. They did it again by the end of the day. Man, if they do it again, honestly, they could fall and touch 124. And that's a $10 move. The first move was what? 145 to 135. That's 10. Second move, 140 to 130. That's a $10 move. This right here, 134, man, to they could potentially reach that area again. They could potentially fall below this blue line. So I'm gonna say bear day, bear week, maybe bear day, Monday only for Palantir. But still, they're still high up. Even if they fall to 124, they're still really high up. I can see them going back up past. They reached all time high this week though. They formed a double top, all time high, but they look like they're forming a bear flag right here. And then we have IonQ. or Ionic. Man, they've been having positive trajectory for quite some time now. I believe in the beginning of June, that's when the trajectory started. Yep. Friday, June 12th. And they kind of fell off. I stopped tracking that, but for the most part, they've been sloping upwards lately. And they did have a bear day Friday. It was sort of bull, but it ultimately ended in a bear day. And right here, this could be a potential bear flag that could fall to what, 37. But right here, I can say that they could potentially go back up Monday because this doesn't look like a full bear flag. So they could potentially rise back up to 41 again. Who knows? We're going to find out. So pay attention. Make sure you're fully aware. But yeah, those are my predictions for the week. Anyways, thank you for tuning in. I'm Reviews for Success. Leave your likes, comment, your feedback down below. Let me know how you feel. And also, what other companies would you like for me to look at and analyze for you all? I see there's 3 people on right now. Go ahead, leave a comment so that way I know who you are, where are you from, where do you live. We can chat it up. And if you want me to do this every day, let me know in the comments and I'll do that. But anyways, thank you all for tuning in. I'll see you all in the next video. Y'all take care and be smart out here. And remember, we have 4 weeks, 4 days this week, not 5. I'm tired. I'm sleepy anyways. I'm about to have a good night. I hope y'all do the same. Peace.